I will start the day off with the words you all want to hear so badly. Civil war. Yeah, what does that really mean? Oh, of course I'm going to talk about this. Because last night in Philadelphia, we saw over 100 youths, teens, I don't even know how young they were. Some were probably in their 20s, ransacking numerous businesses, fighting with cops, fighting with store employees, and just stealing everything. GameStop, Target, Apple, Lululemon, you name it. Now, why did they do this? Well, what they report in the news is that after a ruling in a failed shooting, people looted. Yeah, sorry, dude. Whether or not the cops were justified in a shooting does not warrant stealing from a bunch of businesses. Now, there's a reason why I say civil war. Take this into consideration. This is an example. Take it from the experts. Don't take it from me. All I do is read the news. But what we're talking about here is a breakdown of confidence in government. And the mistake people make when they hear civil war. Oh, man, look, I'm going to talk about, let's talk about context and understanding. OK, right now, there's a big story about Donald Trump's properties, Mar-a-Lago's evaluation. And it's fascinating to see so many people on Twitter, on social media in general, act like they know how to evaluate property and business despite not owning hard assets at all. My point is this. When a story breaks and someone says, here's a bit of information as to why a thing happened, a lot of people immediately make a generic assumption as if they know when they don't, right? So when someone hears civil war, the immediate thing they think of is the Confederacy declaring secession and then soldiers marching on a battlefield. I bring this up all the time. In reality, if you look at most civil wars, it's actually social breakdown. Conflict begins when various factions become more hyperpolarized and government loses the faith of the people, thus resulting in factions fighting over control. What we're seeing here with Philadelphia is a component which may lead to revolution, civil war, or just collapse, right? And so I think civil war, mostly because, January 6th, the 2016 election, the 2020 election, the strong political component to what is occurring as society begins to break down. That is to say, when you have the 529 insurrection at the White House and far left extremists firebomb the White House, that's funny, right? Ain't no J6er firebomb the Capitol, but the left, yes, did you not know this? Firebombed the White House property, setting fire to a guard post, and they set fire to St. John's Church across the street. Ignored. No tribunals, no commissions, no arrests. Probably some arrests, to be fair. But for the most part, nothing. And that was under Trump. And then you get January 6th, which is a nationwide hunt for anybody who may have been in the building. One woman in Alaska, she has her home raided because she looked like another woman who was in the building. Isn't that crazy? Right. So this is my point. Social order is breaking down at a time with political hyperpolarization. So when you're in Philadelphia and you are, let's say, one of these teenagers will become adults. They're filming themselves destroy businesses, steal, and fight with cops. Why? They do not feel the police have any legitimate authority. They do not fear the consequences. There is no fear of being shunned by society. There is no fear of law enforcement. None. How can you have social order when you have large swaths of the population that don't believe it exists at all and will take from you? Well, you can't. And so this is what ends up happening. As we look at what happened last night in Philadelphia, it's bonkers. I mean, some of these videos, we'll go through some of the clips and stuff. I'm not going to show videos of any of the violence or anything like that, but I'll give you examples. You've got residents of Philadelphia who are going to say no confidence in police. Why? Police can't stop the rioting. No confidence in government. Government can't stop the rioting. And what ends up happening is you get militia. Not in the, like, people think militia and they're imagining like dudes wearing, camo and being like, a fat dude with body armor. No, dude. Militia in the sense of locals in the area taking up arms and just coordinating with each other for the purpose of enforcing social order. This is when you see the rise of factions that are acting in competition with government. Government in the United States operates under the monopoly of violence doctrine. That is, the police are allowed, the government is allowed, they control violence. And if you, and at any point, you know that if you act outside of what the government wants, they will inflict violence upon you. That's the reality of how the system has been operating for some time. It shouldn't be that way. It should be social order. It should be that we agree. There should be some scrutiny for an abuse of the monopoly on violence. But because of the, I guess, population density and disparate ideologies, this is where we are today. As more and more people right now in these cities begin looting and ransacking because they do not believe that the police or government use of violence is monopolized, they will just say, try me. I can exert my force against you. That is to say, when you get defund the police, when you get BLM protests, and you get Democrats basically releasing criminals, the message being sent out in general is the government has no control in this instance. And so it would be fine if it was a sparse population, a smaller population of ideologically and morally homogenous people. You don't need law enforcement if everybody agrees on how things should be. And if one person acts out and commits a crime, the entirety of the community takes action. But we're not in that system anymore. Let me break down the news, and then we'll talk about more of the philosophical components here. But the simple point I'm trying to say is, if we're seeing this across the board all throughout the United States. Oh, and check Google for this stuff. It's crazy how many stories in the past few days. We have seen these flash mobs over and over and over again. What happens in 10, 20 years as these young people don't care about police, film themselves breaking the law and laugh about it? Do you think that when they're older, they're going to abide by the law? No. This is the makings of militia. Right now, teenagers stealing iPads. And you say, oh, it's just teenagers stealing iPads. What happens when they're 25, 35? Is it going to be iPads or is it going to be property? Is it going to be these dudes coming together and being like, bro, we can take that house. Ain't nobody come and stop us if we do. Look at Chaz Chop. If these teenagers decide they will surround a private residence and kick the family out, do you think police will stop them? They will not. Now, for now, yeah. Don't get me wrong. Right. For now, you will see police action. I mean, we're seeing police try to stop this. How many cops want to be a cop with defund the police? How many cops want to be a cop if you can't even arrest these people? Or if you do, they get released right away. And then what happens when 100 teenagers just occupy a city block? Don't actually kick anybody out like Chaz Chop already happened. Now what happens if it's in a residential area and the police are like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? When the Chaz Chop started in Seattle, businesses were under the governance of communist mobs, and the police did nothing. So this is not something that's far from the future. It's something happening literally right now and has already taken place. Autonomous zones in Atlanta, in Seattle, attempts in Portland, Minnesota. These things have already emerged. It's entirely possible that we restore order, sure. But over the past decade, we've only seen things escalate. Mike Cernovich has a stark warning saying, I hope you're ready for what comes next, because this is just an example of what we're going to see in 2024. Here's the story. Let me give you the news, and then I'll give you some more breakdown. Groups of teenagers, more than 100 people. This is from tribdem.com, the Tribune Democrat. Groups of teenagers swarmed into stores in Philly's Central City on Tuesday, stuffing plastic bags with merchandise and fleeing. Although police made several arrests, authorities and witnesses said. An Apple store was hit around 8 p.m., and police chased fleeing teenagers, recovering dropped iPhones and piles of iPads at one spot. More than 100 people appeared to be teenagers looted a Lululemon store, NBC 10 reported. Videos posted on social media showed masked people in hoodies running out of the store. Yeah, we get it. The flash mob-style ransacking followed an earlier peaceful protest over a judge's Tuesday decision to dismiss murder and other charges against a Philadelphia officer who shot and killed a driver, Eddie Irizarry, through a rolled-up window. Yep, and that was wrong, and that stuff shouldn't happen. The police lied and claimed the dude got out of the car and lunged at him. That's not what happened. Video proves it. So this is what happens. The police are not being held accountable, and I think they should be. And when they're not held accountable, the people say your system is illegitimate. The government may have a monopoly on violence, but it comes with scrutiny. And when the government violates these things too long and too often, and they do, you get social breakdown. As these young people begin to say, the police are meaningless to me because they act, these young people, especially leftists, not all of them, some of them are exploiting the crisis, but many of them view the police as illegitimate. They say, how many innocent people have been killed by cops with no accountability? Yeah. There was one story we talked about where there was a guy in jail. He was arrested and detained, and a cop grabbed his head and bashed it on the wall, knocking him out. For what reason? None. Like literally no reason. A cop did this. And then the other officers lied about what happened to protect the cop. As soon as a story like that comes out, just one story, these teenagers are then propagandized. And they say, despite the fact we understand those cops are bad, there was no accountability. And so the young people say, if they don't act within the law, why would any of us? All you're saying is it's a competition now over who's willing to come up. I was driving in my car the other day and I was listening to April 26, 1992. Am I getting the date right? Let me I'm going to do a fact check on this. I think that's what it was. It's the Sublime song. April 26, 1992. Yeah, I got it right. I'm sorry. No, I was wrong. It's April 29th. Oh, I was so close. Inverted it. There was a riot on the streets. Tell me, where were you? Blah, 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 blah. If you know the lyrics. There's a really great line in the song where he says, they claimed it was for the black man. It was for the African, but not for the white man. That's a line in the song. And then can I pull this up? This lyric is too good. Seriously. Okay, let's see. First spot we hit up was my liquor store. I finally got all the alcohol I can't afford. Let's see. Where is it at? Tell me, where are you? Participating in some anarchy. Where do you think I got this guitar that you're hearing today? It's amazing. When we returned to the pad and everything, they said it was, here we go. They said it was for the black man. They said it was for the Mexican and not for the white man. But if you look at the streets, it wasn't about Rodney King and this effed up situation and these effed up police. It's about coming up and staying on top and screaming 187 on a mother effing cop. It's not in the paper. It's on the wall. National Guard spoke from all around. That's an amazing line. What we hear when we see all these riots is that it's about justice. No, it's not. These people are exploiting circumstance to, quote unquote, come up. And I've long said that. I've experienced that when I watch this stuff. But let's talk about social breakdown and what this means. Take a look at this. This is a tweet from Philly Crime Update. Although heavily fortified, looters still tried to break into this auto zone at Broad and Cumberland in Philadelphia. Why is an auto zone heavily fortified? Look at this fencing. Is it barbed wire on top? That's weird. Why is AutoZone doing this? That's crazy, isn't it? Because they know what's happening. They know what this is. Social breakdown. We got more. This is a video. This is one of the most shocking videos you can see right now. Steve Keeley, Fox 29 says Apple Store security can't hold doors shut from crowd. One posted videos. Philly police gathering. Stolen iPads and iPhones from Apple stores have alarms going off on them and message. It's been disabled. It's being tracked. So looters start smashing them. This says, please return to Apple. This device has been disabled and is being tracked. Thieves saw this message on just stolen iPhones and iPads as loud beeping alarm sounds on them moments after they were taken out of the Philadelphia store, and many of them smashed it. Look at this. The iPhones actually do this stuff. You know what's shocking about this? Employees were in the store when this violent mob broke in and ransacked it and stole as much as they could. Social breakdown. This is not a protest. What this says is that people do not feel that the government has any authority over them and the government can do nothing to stop them, which is why I say civil war. We have a bunch of photos here. Let me get some to a bit of the political points. Ed Krasenstein. The Krasensteins, you love them. Liberals. Ed Krasenstein says, what is wrong with people? In Philadelphia last night, a bunch of people break into an Apple store and take iPhone 15s. With sirens blaring, they run out only to realize they're being tracked. What do they do next? They begin breaking all the phones they just took while being filmed by people with other iPhones. One such video can be seen below. Some people just aren't very bright. Who do you blame? It's beautiful naivete, in my opinion. Here's the tweet from Mike Cernovich. Philadelphia shows how bad it's going to get next year. I can't emphasize this enough. And for my own karma and must continue nagging you people. This isn't the same country. You need to be prepared. This isn't some short-term thing you can watch happen. You'll be an involuntary participant. That's right. So I watch this stuff. I see these videos and I'm like, how many of you listened to me when I explained civil war, civil strife, etc.? Many of you probably did. What did I say? Did I say that, and you all know this already, but bears repeating. Did I say, oh man, all the conservatives are going to form paramilitary groups and then start marching down the streets with their weapons, goose stepping, and then the Ron DeSantis or, Kristi Noem, they're going to sign a declaration of society? No. What did I say? I said men across this country will stop viewing the government as legitimate because of the prosecution, the political persecutions and prosecutions that the attacks made against Donald Trump. And you will see militia, not organized in the sense of someone wearing camo. You will see 7 guys coming out and blocking their street. And then when law enforcement shows up, they'll say, you have no authority here. That's what I've been saying. This is what happens in most countries when a civil war begins. You begin to see people have no faith that the government can actually uphold any of the rules and any of the social norms. This is a component of that from the liberal Democrat perspective. If the federal government begins arresting people over January 6th and ignoring the far left for the things they did with firebombing the White House, what happens then is conservatives start saying the government's illegitimate. They already do. They already are saying abolish the FBI. That is outright saying they do not feel the FBI acts legitimately. ATF, that one's kind of obvious. But what happens in cities? Right now, you're seeing what the left does. Now, these people are more likely to be default lib in that they probably don't care too much about politics, but they fall in that on that side just by virtue of being in a city. The fact that they're smashing up buildings and everything and stealing shows they ain't conservatives. They're trying to come up. But hold on, what does that mean? They're enriching themselves. That's what these attacks are. They're not political. It doesn't need to be political. Again, the people think civil war, and it's just so stupid. Like when Bill Maher was like, what was his quote? Something about the Mason-Dixon line would run through Nana's kitchen or something like that. I don't know. Something like that. Doesn't have to be one. I'll give you a scenario. Philadelphia. Here we go. Let me do this. Here's Google. I Google searched flash mob robbery. Philadelphia, obvious. YSL flash mob robbery, Glendale, 5 days ago. Gucci handbags, Camarillo. Flash mob, Philadelphia. Okay, we got that one. California flash mob was at Glendale. So we've got Glendale and Camarillo, however you pronounce it. What do we have this one? A month ago, California Macy's. Let's see. 4 days ago, St. Lawrence store in, is this California? So it looks like LA plague of flash mob robbery sends police scrambling. It looks like we may have 2 or 3 different stories right when you pull it up. 2 or 3 different instances of these flash mob robberies. But come on, we know they're happening all over the place. Eventually, as we see police resign and be defunded, and this political ideology breaks down, you will see people on the right act in a comparable inverse action. AOC. Here we go. Let me pull up. This is something I covered yesterday morning. People in Staten Island are protesting non-citizens being brought in to their homes, to their neighborhoods, and the police arrest the locals. Tell me that you think anyone will believe and have confidence in government when the police lie about how they killed some dude in his car. Now people are just like, hey, cops are illegitimate, right? The idea now is just don't get caught. How is anyone going to have faith in law enforcement when we have seen too many stories of cops lying? Now, listen, I'm not saying that 1,000 unarmed black men are being killed every year. No, it was like between 9 and 13 in 2019. Not a lot. The problem, when police lie, they get away with it. I'm in New York. I'm filming Occupy Wall Street. The police falsely arrest a photographer. His name was Alex Arbuckle, standing on the sidewalk taking pictures. They file a false police report claiming that he was obstructing a roadway. My video proved the police lied. Did the officer who lied under oath have any repercussions? None. Okay. This system is lucky that people like you and I still fight to maintain social order, knowing that in almost any instance where a cop lies, they get away with it. They do. Now, I'm not saying all cops are bad. I'm saying in the instances where cops lie to cover up crimes, there is no accountability. And you have bred this issue. Teenagers. These kids, when I filmed that was 10 years ago. 12 years ago. Just about 12 years ago, I filmed that. So that kid who's 16, who's robbing that store, he was 4 when I filmed this dude being wrongly arrested. And that's all it was. And what do you think happens when this kid grows up and he's told, yeah, the police will arrest you, they'll lie about it, and they'll get away with it, and no one will hold them accountable. I warned about this back then. I warn about it today. The more they protect bad cops who lie under oath and file false police reports, the more they chip away at the confidence in the system. You have now created a generation. You gave fuel to the far left extremists, justifying their claims, and have built a generation with no confidence in this system. These teenagers ransacking. Do you think they're going to have confidence in the system in 10 years? No, they won't. It's only getting worse. Not only did you have Occupy Wall Street, millennials with no confidence in police who want to defund them, you now have Gen Z and Gen Alpha coming into a world where the police are impotent. Not only did they lie and get away with it on numerous occasions, they can't stop you when you act out. Oh, some of these 20 arrests. Yeah, is that it? Over 100 people are looting these stores and they arrest 20. These kids are looking at being like, good odds. All they see with this looting and rioting is factions. That is the breakdown. They don't see law enforcement. They don't fear law enforcement because they know they'll be let out. They know the protesters will strike against the politics in supporting these police, and the Democrats will pander to them for votes. They know that they have gained a commensurate amount of political power and physical force in this system. Let's simplify it. Far left vandals and extremists know for a fact that the government no longer has a monopoly on violence. For when they firebombed the White House, there were no repercussions. They have a monopoly on violence in their own respect. So what then happens? How does this break down into either revolution or civil war? Revolution in the sense that rogue political factions and random people are just destroying and ransacking, and it's getting worse and worse every day. And it's been getting worse over the past several years. Now, again, maybe it stops. Maybe it all ends right here and today's the last day. Man, how many times have I said that? And then this happens. This in Philly was, I think, one of the worst we've seen in terms of flash mob violence. They don't care what the cops think at all. Just running around ransacking and looting stuff. We've seen this stuff before, but yeah, it's getting worse. We have numerous stories every day of flash mobs ransacking. It's conspiracy, but they don't care and they're not going to stop because you can't arrest them all. What do conservatives do? Man, you know what? No, honestly, it's not even about conservatives. It's about regular people. We saw this in 2020, a video of a couple guys and a few women standing at the edge of their block with rifles and some armor. Neighborhood watch. They had been rioting and destroying everything. And so the people who lived here came out with guns. That's it. You saw it with the McCloskeys in St. Louis. They broke into a private neighborhood, smashing the fence open, and the McCloskeys came out on their own property, brandishing firearms. They got criminally charged. The McCloskeys did. Wow, that's St. Louis. You break into private property. The whole thing was private. And you are not allowed to prepare yourself to defend your life. They said, why were they pointing guns at these people? Okay, you know, maybe a little over the top, but what am I to say? If you come onto my private property, why is it incumbent upon me, the victim of your aggression, to wait and see whether or not you intend to kill me? I don't agree with that. So I talked about, I have a video coming out. It's for Friday, I think, where this guy was firing pellet guns at these dudes. The dudes beat him. They fought him, and then the dude died. And it's this big story, Ethan Liming, I believe. And the response I posted on Twitter was people were defending Liming And they were like, it was just a water gun. And I'm like, it was called a pellet gun with soft gel pellets, meaning like akin to paintballs. And more importantly, I'm like, dude, I don't care if it's a squirt gun. It is not incumbent upon me to figure out if you are trying to spray me down with bleach or acid or anything like that. Somebody's walking down the street and they have a cup of liquid and they go to splash you in the face. Do you have a right to defend yourself? You bet you do. They're acid attacks. We know what happens to these people in the UK when they go up to these women and they splash her. Should someone with a squirt gun aiming it at you about to spray you, should we say, well, it could be water, so therefore I won't protect myself? No way. If you attack someone for any reason, it is not the victim's fault or incumbent upon the victim to wait and figure out how much damage you seek to inflict upon them. Don't attack people. Well, my point is this. We're getting now to the point where you're going to see locals like we have in this video. They're going to snap. The regular people who want to be left alone, that's when the system breaks down. We talked about this last night with Carl Benjamin. He says, the people who want to be left alone can't win a war. And I'm like, right. But there are more people who want to be left alone. And when you refuse to leave them alone, they go nuts. Here's what I think. In 2020, I met many people who said, I cannot vote for Donald Trump. I just want it to stop. I wonder if you've seen this. The idea that these people had was that Trump was the cause of civil strife, that because of Trump, we were in this conflict and it needed to stop. And if Trump just goes away, we can go back to normal. They were wrong, of course. Trump was the avatar of the outrage, not the cause of it. So what happens? Trump is ousted. And these people think, now we can go back to normal. Sorry about that. That's not true. The ransacking, the rioting, the violence has only gotten worse and substantially worse. They thought all of this craziness will end once Trump is just gone. But now it's tenfold. Now they're not just impeaching the president. Now they're indicting him, ordering the dissolution of his businesses. It is getting worse every single day. A time travel test. If I went back in time 7 years and said that not only would they have indicted Trump on 91 counts, not only would thousands of people have I should say a few hundred, storm the Capitol with 1,000 entering from various locations, and with many seeking to disrupt the Electoral College vote count, not saying everyone, Donald Trump's businesses, the Trump Organization, would be ordered dissolved by a New York judge. Yep, that's the breaking news we'll talk about in a minute in the next segment. Nobody would believe it. A judge ordered the Trump Organization dissolved. Trump's empire, Trump's business, the Trump Organization that saved New York State, gone in an instant on a summary judgment. This is civil war. Yesterday, as we're getting ready for the show, Carl says, what's this? A judge just ordered the Trump Organization dissolved? And I was like, what? No. They're calling it the corporate death penalty. For what reason? I'll get into more of that in the next segment because this one, it's crazy. What you are seeing right now is unsustainable, and I don't see how it's repaired. Call me crazy, call me wrong. I don't care, man. I got my chickens. We got our emergency food. We got our plans. Did you expect New York City to bus non-citizens into your neighborhood and then arrest you? Did you expect to see a residential neighborhood have non-citizens bussed in, paid for by the federal government to be given shelter in your community and jobs to work under the table and special protected status? Did you ever expect it to happen? And then when locals come to protest, the police arrest the locals. U.S. citizens being arrested in New York for saying you can't bring these people here. You think that's social order? These people are these are regular people who don't protest fighting cops. Let me repeat that for you. Regular people who don't protest and want to be left alone and voted against Trump. Not all of them at Staten Island. I get it. Many of them voted for Trump. But majority, they're voting for Joe Biden thinking if Trump just goes away, it all stops. And then the police came in, spit in your face figuratively, brought non-citizens to your community, straining your resources, and laughed with a smile on their face, cackling like the Joker as they arrested you. No one saw that coming. This system is unsustainable. Regular people in these neighborhoods are going, I'm sorry. I was going to say they're going to start pushing back. They're already. It worries me when the regular working class dudes in urban liberal areas protest the police. It's not surprising when the far left does it. This freaks me out. The police then arrest them. What do you think these guys are going to say? They're going to say, guys, the cops are here to shut you down and defend non-citizens. I think one of the things we start to see is people stop paying taxes. No question, no doubt. There have already been people making huge pushes for tax strikes and things like that. That's worrying and very dangerous to me. That's when the system stops completely. People stop paying taxes. Uh-oh. It's like 1764. Call it, whatever. If the police are siding with non-citizens, why would someone want to fund the police? What happens if the police are underfunded, unfunded? Well, then you get violent riots. Then what? Social order is breaking down. I don't know how many times I need to say it, but here we are once again with two big stories pertaining to social decay. For sure. Tell me that you think it stops here. I'm all ears. Tell me that you think, no, look, this stuff's going to chill out. You think it's 2023. The election cycle is only just beginning. You think things get calmer. By all means, you're allowed to. Make the mockery. Claim I'm crazy and it's overhyped and it'll never happen. Sure. What I'm telling you is this. The police are protecting non-citizens. Federal law enforcement are opening the gates, letting them in. They are giving $1 billion+ of your tax dollars in New York to non-citizens while you struggle for work and struggle in this economy. These immigrants are being given jobs and special protected status. Do you think a regular working class guy is going to sit back and watch his businesses be ransacked and looted, neighborhoods be destroyed, all while the police protect the criminals? And they do. Look, I know 20 people got arrested in Philly, but when the far left extremists firebombed the White House, I'm not kidding. It's not an exaggeration. They were lobbing fire bombs. They set fire to a guard post on the White House property trying to tear down the barricades. They did tear down the barricades. St. John's Church, the historic presidential church, was set ablaze. Fortunately, the fire was put out. And what happens? It just keeps happening. The far left keeps their push against police, and police, with smiles on their faces, arrest Trump supporters. What did these Staten Island people do to get arrested? Protested non-citizens in their neighborhood? People not from this country are coming into your neighborhood, protected by the government, paid for by the government. You think the citizens of this country are going to have confidence in a government that does that? I don't. And I think again, they literally already showed they don't. Fighting against the cops who are protecting them. At what point do locals just say, we have been betrayed? What the police were doing in Staten Island, protecting these illegal immigrants, is sedition. Acting to protect foreign nationals illegally entering this country in violation of our laws, siding with them over the citizens of this neighborhood. It can be said a million ways. The police, seeing non-citizens come into a neighborhood with demands to take resources, sided with the non-citizens over the citizens. End of story. The citizens got mad. Those who pay the bills, who live in the area and strive to protect their homes, were attacked by police protecting foreign nationals. Tell me you think that this stabilizes. I hope, I wish, I pray. Because I got to tell you, man, I'd love to just sit around. I'd love to order pizza, watch the game, hang out with my buddies, make skate videos. Was skating the other day, filmed a bunch of clips. Really, really fun stuff. I'd love to just do all that. This freaks me out. And then I get people telling me, Tim, you shouldn't talk about this because it makes things worse. I'm like, that is a moral philosophy that I don't care for and applies not to me. My view is such. I have opinions. I talk about those opinions. What is happening? I will talk about how I feel and what I think is happening. That's it. End of story. This idea that I, as someone in the media with a following, should lie, obfuscate, and try and calm things down. I'm not a leader. I'm not a politician. I am not here to tell people, to make people do what I think they should do. I am not someone who believes that I am so smart and so correct all the time that I should tell people lies so that they live the way I want them to live. I'll tell you what I do. I see things, and then I talk about what I think about them. And I hate to say it, everybody, but I gotten a lot of things wrong. I always do, of course, because predictions are difficult. Scary thing is, on the core, I've been right about too much that is particularly worrisome. Owen Schroyer. Everyone was like, holy crap, Tim was right. I know, but how could I have been wrong? It's not like I'm making a grand prediction. What did I say? After the J6ers, Trump and his lawyers, the next target will be media personalities that were speaking in support of January 6th. And what do we get? We get the halfway mark. Owen Schroyer was there on the Capitol grounds, but the prosecutors at the federal level wanted him sentenced to prison, and he was sentenced to prison for his speech. And I said, that's what they'll do. Owen Schroyer, a media personality. Here we go. Next up is going to be someone who maybe didn't go on the Capitol, but was inciting. We'll see how far it goes and how fast it goes. It may stop with Owen Schroyer. He was there. He wasn't in the building or anything like that. He was at a permitted rally. I think they're going to go after people who weren't even in D.C., who are maybe even like in Iowa or something, but made videos rallying people and encouraging this. And people said some bombastic stuff. 2024 is around the corner. You're going to see a whole lot of crazy accusations made against people. You're going to see debanking. It's going to get bad. It's going to get crazy because ain't nobody backing down. But I hope you understand this, my friends. The big news last night was that a judge unilaterally and summarily ordered Trump's businesses shuttered, dissolved. Summary judgment. That means he just banged the gavel and said, it is so. You think with the ground level conflict and chaos and the high level corruption, it just stops here? All right. I hope. But you know, a lot of people hear this and they think that it means black pill. The end is nigh. No, I'm not saying that. I think culturally we're winning this. And all the left is doing and all the chaos means is that there will be a resurgence. I think right now the data shows Trump is going to win. I think he does. And I think this turns things around. The night is always darkest before the dawn. So I hope you're prepared for a wild and psychotic 2024. But I think if we carry on the current trend we are, and things could change, Donald Trump wins, and then things will be very different. But I don't know. Look, man, I don't know. You believe what you believe. I'm just showing you what's going on right now. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.